Hello, friends. Leigh Brown here. Welcome to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, I've got Karl Krauskopf. Look, I can't hardly say his name. I don't speak German, but Karl Krauskopf is with us, and he's really smart. His company is Auroras, so it's easier to say than his name. Super great insights and information. So put your nerd hat on, but hang in there because there is a wild story after the nerd talk. You're going to really be improved and cautious and what after this episode. So enjoy the conversation. I'll see you on the other side. You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. I hope you are.
I am. It's a fantastic morning over here in Seattle.
What you got? I see some bright lights behind you. Is it sunny? Is this one of your 5 sunny days in Seattle?
You know, I don't think it is actually sunny outside. Oh. I think it's maybe partially sunny. Yesterday was so uncanny. It was 70 degrees.
Oh.
It was the weirdest thing. Sunny. And the day before was in like the 40s. Today's back in the 40s.
Oh.
So I don't know what the hell is going on.
I don't know, but if that 70-degree day, if somebody was smart, they would sponsor all the digital billboards and say today's weather sponsored by Florida, and they would put like their real estate website on it, and then you would be ready to go.
Oh, absolutely.
That's probably going to happen at some point. And you probably have those billboards out there. We have them here. Have you ever seen Blip? Like you can buy limited digital space on billboards, and it runs periodically.
There's many things I like about Seattle. One thing in particular is there's no billboards. There are no billboards. The entire stretch of Seattle, Everett, Tacoma, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, because you have views there, I guess. You don't want to disrupt the natural views.
Guess so. I don't know what the hell it is. I mean, there's not a lot of space beside of highways. So I think that's one thing. But I was just in Boise like 2 weeks ago, and it's billboard central. Utah was as well. And coming back here where there's no billboards, I mean, it's nice.
You're like, hey, we get this right. Go us.
Yeah, that's one thing. Yep.
I mean, you know, we all get certain things right and certain things we could probably do better. That's everywhere.
Right.
Just depends on who's running the narrative machine, right?
Yeah. I mean, the narrative out here is insane. I'm sure you've probably heard the crazies on crazies.
Yeah, it kind of worries me a little bit about my regular friends who live out there, and they have trouble navigating sometimes, but they also say there's so many perks to living there that it's worth navigating some of the craziness. So,
you know, I genuinely have hope. So I grew up in Florida. I lived in Dallas for a long while. So politics aside, I'm conservative at heart. And one thing that brought me hope was in our last general election for the city of Seattle, we had a they used to be conservative mayor and ex-Republican general attorney somehow won the election. And now we've got like a glimmer of hope coming back of like, they want to double the police force. They want to clean the streets. They want to actually hold, violent crimes accountable. So,
that benefits the whole community.
It does. It does. I mean, it absolutely does.
And the fringe things, but when you have the Chaz zone, that doesn't fit anybody's idea of where we need to be as a functioning society.
Right.
But it also doesn't mean everybody has to be all the way on the other side of the political spectrum. There's this beautiful place in the middle where most people hang out.
Yep. Totally agree.
Right. So how did you land in Seattle after Florida and Dallas? What took you there?
So work moved my wife and I out to Dallas, and we spent about 4 years there. First year was pretty cool. Then we realized this is a concrete jungle. Don't really like it. We like to go outside, snowboard, hike. So we spent all of our disposable.
You're not snowboarding in Dallas.
Say it again.
You're not snowboarding in Dallas.
Nah, not too much. It was pretty difficult. We tried once and we got injured, but we spent all of our disposable income leaving the state, leaving the city, and we realized, hey, why not just actually live where we want to live? So we toyed around with Denver, with Seattle, and we landed on Seattle because of the proximity to the ocean. It just felt like the right place, kind of, again, growing up on the ocean, on the beaches in Florida. And we've been out here 5 years now. So absolutely love it. Love the mountains, love the snowboarding. Snowboarding is pretty garbage out here compared to like Denver. but the hiking is top notch. I mean, we're an hour away from some of the best trails in the country.
And you don't have all the ratchet humidity that we have here that would take all the fun away from those hikes. So,
and remind me where you live.
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Nice.
So we've got the beach 3 hours away, the mountains 2 hours away, and we can do any activities we want. But the humidity makes the outdoors kind of miserable here in the next 2 months.
Yeah, 100%.
Right now, though, it's great. So we're going to the mountains in 2 weeks to do some hiking ourselves because that's our spring break time.
Have fun. Is that Asheville or what?
Actually, Asheville is too much of a city for me now. Sure. So we go to the little tiny mountain towns. We like to go find Airbnbs, and then we'll go whitewater raft, Banner Elk, and Blowing Rock are small enough to still have a good town feel. Like Boone is big, college town. Asheville's a big city with cool stuff in it. But like Waynesville is the jam.
I'm familiar with Waynesville.
So stinking cute there. Yeah. They got everything.
I like it.
So because I'm that mom, I'm going to drive to Flat Rock too, so my kids can go to Carl Sandburg's house. Have you ever been there?
No, I haven't. My grandparents owned homes in Asheville, so we went there every summer.
Do you remember who Carl Sandburg was?
I don't.
So you'll remember it in a second. It's in your head. It's in the back of your elementary school history. He was the National Poet Laureate for the country.
Okay.
Back in the 60s.
Sure.
And when he died, he left his house to the United States.
Interesting.
And so on the day he died, they froze the house. So when you go in there, the newspaper that he was reading is still beside his chair. The little glass of water he was drinking out of is still sitting there. And of course, they've roped it off, but it's creepy and cool at the same time.
Sure.
But a great conversation to have with your kids. You got to be the nerd parent who drags them through historic things so that one day they can do it to their kids too.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything works. So tell me what you do in and around real estate and how you landed in that space.
So right now we are primarily focused on developments and apartment holds. So we are doing some townhomes. We've got about 11, 12 units under construction right now. Actually, 5 units under construction. 6 are being sold and 5 of 6 are under contract. We're just listed the last one today, hoping to get those all sold out. So we ended up syndicating that from 506B, some family and friends. And we are at, I think, month 14, month 13, somewhere around there. And we're looking forward to getting those liquidated and returned back over to some of our investors and rolling into the next project, which, again, hopefully is going to be getting into some of these larger, call them mid-sized apartments here in the Puget Sound and a few other markets over in the Southeast.
Okay, so with building right now, obviously it's one of the most challenging spaces to be in because there's no way to put controls on labor or materials.
Right.
Are you selling them cost plus? How are you managing that so that you can still feed the profitability of the syndicate?
So what's interesting is that in this last year, the appreciation on the actual exit value has kept up and has exceeded the cost of the construction. Okay. So for instance, on this one that we're just liquidating right now, I want to say we're over budget by like $250,000, which is terrible. Absolutely hate it.
Unit or across the 11?
Whole, across the 6. No, not per unit. That'd be awful. Across the 6. And, a lot of that was due to we had to go underground, things that weren't actually like lumber related or fixture related. It was just the utility company made us do something absolutely different according to plan, right? We were supposed to go overhead. They wanted us to go underground. Huge cost. But we increased budget by 250. Now we are the last one, depending on where the last one sells, will be between 500 to 525,000 over our original underwriting. So there's meat there. Yes, it was somewhat of a risky play, but even nonetheless, even if we were over budget, didn't have the full appreciation there, we still had enough meat in the bone. We protect our investors a certain degree with preferred returns. So they are still making some of their money, some return on their capital, even if our profit pool isn't as expected. So obviously, we've got targets that we want to hit and managing the budget as tough as possible, right? Just making sure that we're buying the right fixture to the right end product that we want.
So are you mainly focused on the next play as raw land to develop land, or do you want to go all the way from raw to finished housing projects?
So on the development side, we are actually, what's interesting is we're primarily focused on picking up permitted sites because of the speed and how long it takes, especially here in Seattle, right? It'll take minimum 12 months for a townhome project. Apartments are usually 2 to 3 years to get the permits. And so we're just focused right now on buying the permitted sites. Sure, we'll end up leaving some capital on the table because we're having to pay the person who went in and got the entitlements. But from a speed, from a velocity of money, we're not land banking that first out of the deal. So we're just going in and we're mobilizing capital. We've got builders from the north to the south of the MSA, and we just get rocking and rolling on it.
Hey, y'all, just going to take a quick break from this conversation to let you know about the sponsor of today's episode. That sponsor is, well, frankly, it's me. It's Leigh Brown University. It's no secret that real estate is crazy competitive, getting more so every day. And that's why I created Leigh Brown University. Each of you has different goals. There's something in my course that's going to help you break through. So enroll in Leigh Brown University today. You go to www.leighrownu.com and I'll see you there. Now, back to this amazing content. So you don't want to buy a parcel in North Carolina? Because one of my buddies just sent me one today that's 73 permitted home sites with utilities, walking distance to a college. And the guy did all the development and he's not going to build the houses now. So
interesting. Yeah. So we started looking a lot at the development in other MSAs. Our first bout was in Phoenix, looking at the Phoenix market for developments, for apartments, et cetera. And after about a dozen different, hyper due diligence properties, we realized that we're just not playing in the right market right now. There's too much institutional money going in and banking on years 15 to 25, making the cake. And, just to be totally frank, we're not in that position yet. So we're still...
What they said for staying in your backyard where you know all the players.
Yeah.
You do have people in different specialty parts of the MSA and the hiccups you might run into from utilities. So you can factor that in now. That's huge. And not a small thing to consider.
And so, we are looking at apartments in the Southeast, already performing, ideally underperforming assets in the Southeast, Atlanta, and about 3 or 4 in Florida. And the idea there is to break into the market in already operating assets, gain the relationships, make the relationships, understand the whole building process, and then going into a development cycle. So obviously that's going to take quite a bit longer. And I suffer from shiny object syndrome.
Shiny object syndrome.
There you go. And so when you told me the 74 unit, I was like, shit, let's get it. Let's do it.
I know. I saw the email this morning. I'm like, who can I call? Because, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not a builder. I need to slow my roll here because it's not my specialty. It should be. That's where the money is. But my risk return ratio is a lot lower than a lot of people's.
Yeah, it's certainly where the money is, especially, what we're looking at right now. Going to any other developments is the exit strategy. Number one is build to rent, build to sell. It has to work, right? Just in case things go south from the rental standpoint for whatever reason. But our primary target right now is build to rent.
So obviously the premise of the show is the crazy shit in real estate. And we're going to sit here in this nerd hole for too long. And then the listeners will be like, this is way too nerdy for me. They want to hear a story. So sure. Karl, I'm dying to know in the moves that you've made and in what you've done in real estate and in building a family syndicate, which for those of y'all that don't know, that means people put all their money in together to buy a pack of beer and then everybody gets some of the beer. That's what syndication is. And it's not as complicated as people make it out to be, but it does mean that you're also inheriting the risk that your family members are buying the wrong kind of beer. It just happens, right? So knowing all of that and the angles you've been in, what kind of story you got for the audience today?
Is pretty rough. I mean, obviously, besides going over budget, $250,000, $300,000.
Hey, but it's not as bad as I initially thought it was. I was about to die.
Per unit, that'd be awful.
Because that could happen in today's market. I'm just going to point that out.
Yep. So I would say the craziest story that I've got is when I originally started cutting my teeth in flipping homes. I was flipping homes for about 2 years during still managing a full-time job, 40, 60-hour day job. And I had a toddler at the same time. Well, a newborn. So it was a great time to start flipping homes, right?
Why not? You're not sleeping anyway.
Why not? So I flipped my first home successfully, made like 60 grand. Then I was on cloud 9 and decided to buy 3 more flips at the same time. Why not? Great idea. So 2 of them, they went okay, right? Probably made $15,000 because of a general contractor who ended up stealing, walking away mid-job. Fantastic. The third one was awful. The third one, I closed on it in, I want to say late September of 2018, let's call it 2019. And what ended up happening is it was borderline teardown. My general contractor, same one who stole money from the other projects, started replacing the roof, started redoing windows, got red tagged. Red tagged means basically the city says you're doing work without permits. Said, oh, damn. Yeah, I thought you just told me that you pulled permits. This is not the bad part. This is the easy part. The bad part is after about 2 weeks of maybe 1 week of having the red tag, so we stopped working, I get an email from an attorney in downtown Seattle saying, Karl Krauskopf, you fraudulently purchased this home and the purchase and sale agreement is void. The owners are demanding their home back. And I was like, this has got to be totally false. I stood my ground wholeheartedly. Got served at my home about a week later. Yes, I was working from home at my day job, which of course you don't wear pants, right? When you're working from home.
Who does?
Who does? So I get served in a hoodie, no pants. Terrible. I spent about 2 months going through the process, which apparently is actually really short, which I was blessed from that perspective. But long story short is somebody actually did steal the identity of the seller. Person from Lubbock, Texas stole the identity of an 80-year-old man, got a fake ID, set up an account in his name. We went through the whole title and escrow process, notary, everything. So title and paid out the title insurance, which was good. I still ended up losing the amount of money that I put into replacing the roof, the siding, the windows, all that kind of stuff. Didn't get that back. So to make it all things even more complicated, we were in the process of signing back over the quitclaim deed back over to the owner. And in the whole process, the owner died.
Oh, no. Seriously?
Yep. Unfortunately,
the stress of this killed him. That guy in Texas should be strung up.
Yep, absolutely. So this ended up taking about another 6 months in probate court to get the property back over to heirs of his that were nowhere to be found. It was a difficult process. No idea what happened to this gentleman in Lubbock. I assume the title attorneys went after him as he ended up walking away through that process with about $280,000.
Surely they will track him down for that.
Oh, of course. It was shocking. You know, my very first conversation with the title attorneys was just follow the money. Like, go find out who opened that account, who went and cashed that check at XYZ Bank. And it ended up taking them about a month and a half to like, all right, we're going to follow the money. That's where the person is. And at that point, I was like, great idea, guys. Brilliant.
You will not watch CSI. I mean, come on. This is like the plot of every other episode.
Yep.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. You might not even know the answer to it. If you're listening to shows like on some talk radio channels, there's an ad for title lock where they talk about how you can protect your title from people coming in and taking the ID and the title and then refinancing and nobody knows about it because it's a whole separate name. Do you know about that? Is that related to this at all?
No, I mean, I presume that it would be the same process of identity theft, right? I mean, you come up, you find out the Social Security, either you get access to their bank account. I mean, I'm not an expert in it.
Differently, like how could you have protected yourself from, is there any way you would ever have known?
Yeah. So, you know, the entire like next 3 months of it, I was like, I've got to come up with a way to make this a success story. And so what is the lesson learned? To me, it was tough because this was done via wholesale. So wholesale meaning, somebody got the contract from them, come to find out that their entire relationship was digitally based and never actually met the owner. Going back, looking at it now, that's red flag number one. Now I'm always hyper skeptical about wholesales just because of that. And it's not that I've still bought several wholesale deals since then. It's now just doing a little bit more vetting of the owner themselves. Does it make sense? This was an 80-plus-year-old individual who was selling this home. You know, from a notary standpoint, or if you're actually working with the seller, does this person look 80 years old?
This is insane. But I guess it does provide for us all a good lesson for getting out from behind your computer and going and meeting your other side of the transaction in person. And by the way, if you don't know a lot about wholesaling, actually my links are over here. Follow the links to some of the episodes about wholesaling where we have some people who can explain that a little bit better. But I mean, it's not necessarily an evil thing, but it's definitely, this is a great cautionary tale. And my stomach hurts for you because the amount of time you invested in trying to fix it threw you into the hole on other projects and you weren't doing anything shady. And then you had your bad GC at the same time. So what happened to him? Did you send him to jail?
Yeah, I ended up getting a default judgment on him for about 12 grand plus a 12% interest, annualized interest, which is great. So anytime he sells an asset at any point, maybe I can get some, but it's 100% written off to bad debt. There's no way I expect $0 back.
But you'll never use him again. And so there's that.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's correct. If I see him on the street, I'm coming for you.
You're going to get your little cane out, little walking stick?
It's a hiking pole.
You could totally trip him with that. It's probably fiberglass too, so it won't even snap.
Carbon fiber.
Oh, that's what I meant. See, I don't know that stuff. I was trying to sound like I knew things, but thanks. Okay, so if somebody wants to reach out to you, Karl, they want to find out more about what you're doing with investors and syndication and development, and maybe you just learn from what's happening in the Seattle market, what's the best way for people to find you?
2 ways. We've got a website. I've got an email. So aurorasinvestmentgroup.com. Auroras like the Northern Lights. Yep. Beautiful. And my name is Karl with a K. Karl at aurorasinvestmentgroup.com. I've also got some Instagram handles as well.
And all of this, y'all, is in the show notes for this episode. I know you didn't write it down and you're trying to remember now if he's a C or a K, Karl. Don't worry about it. There's a K, but look in the show notes for this episode. Click and connect and go find out what Auroras Investments got going on that you can find out about. So thank you for coming on the show, Karl, and for giving us a little bit of insights into, your life, and also a good cautionary tale for all of us to not do things that cause 80-year-olds to die prematurely.
There you go.
That's pretty much what it boils down to. All right, friends.
Exactly.
If you learned something on this episode, or if you got a what face to leave for Karl, put it in the comments below. Give him a like. Give us a subscribe and a bell, and make sure you come back for more crazy shit. And I'll see you next time. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.